Here we go.
I'm Thomas Huber, the older part of the Huber brothers. I'm a wild German. I'm a mountaineer. I'm a venture guy. And what I eat today for breakfast, some eggs and pretzels, because pretzel, it's a very Bavarian thing. We always eat the pretzels with butter. And the main thing in the morning, it's a good coffee. So that's so important. And when I go on expedition and or somewhere else in the world, for me it always starts the day with the first thing, a good coffee, and even the smell of the coffee, I know exactly. Okay, my inner sun will rise.
I also love my good cup of coffee, and I think sometimes it's what makes me excited to get out of bed because I love waking up and brewing my cup of black coffee and the aroma of the fresh beans and the hot sip. And I also love pretzels. I did not know it was that standard in Germany to start your day with pretzels, but I love the chewiness, the crustiness of a good pretzel. Nothing like it. Tell us a bit more about you. Who are you and what do you do?
My life was pretty normal. So I went to school, then I made the high school, then I went to university. I want to study sports and economic, to be a teacher in school. We were passionate climbers because our father took us very early into the mountains. We saw the mountains as a playground to be able to be curious, to explore. And that was for us the most important thing. It's not about to be very strong, to be very good. It's more the exploration. And the mountains, it's such a huge field. We saw new walls. We want to do first descents, but we never thought that this is what we loved the most from our childhood, the climbing, the mountaineering, but we never thought that we can make a living out of that. And for some reason, we were studying. We knew also when I will be a teacher or Alex a physicist, the time will be very tight, so we never can go for an expedition anymore. And that was the reason we went to Latok too, southwest face. And that time, it's a 7,000-meter peak in Karakoram. And that time, nobody climbed in this altitude, yeah, such a big wall from 6,000 to 7,000 meter. And we climbed it with Conrad Anker from America. So, and this was a mind blowing success in that time. It was 97. We get home and suddenly we get the sponsors and we talked about this adventure. We get money, and then we thought, oh wow, actually it's not so bad. We can earn money. This what we do, what we love, and then we learn to be on stage. We learn to be to enjoy the people with this what we experienced. I don't want to say enjoy, but the stage was the platform to tell the people what we experienced, and they were so happy to see something from a total different world. And in the combination with the first sponsorships, so we said, yeah, let's try to be a professional climber mountaineer, and from that time we do the same since 97. And everybody who know us, America was a huge part of our story. There were in Yosemite Valley, especially Yosemite Valley, we have to mention. And Yosemite Valley, everybody knows the Stone Masters, Lynn Hill and Roy Robbins and all these guys. And then this guy stopped, and then we came into the valley and we create a new community. And it was the Stone Monkeys. And then the story started.
That was a great intro, and you dropped a lot of breadcrumbs that I want to pick on a little bit. You just wrote a book, Thomas, that I spent speed reading over the last couple of weeks. Can you tell us what this book is called? I don't want to butcher the name in English.
I have also no idea why Sequoia, she is the head of the Angelo publication. She chose the title Freiheit. And Freiheit means freedom. And this is what we are all searching for in our life. Everybody is searching for their little freedom. And the real meaning of the title of the book is In the Mountains, There is Freedom. I wrote the book during the pandemic because
Mhm.
many publishers convinced me years before, Thomas, please, you have so great stories on your slideshows, on your lecture. You fire so many people. Hey, come on, this story it has to be written in the book. And I always said, no, I have no time. I go climbing. And then suddenly the pandemic came. No, they also had a story that they said, Thomas, you don't have to write. And that's the modern way. So we have journalists, we have good writers, the ghost writers. So you just have to sit, tell the stories, and we will write. And I said, no, that's not my way. If I write a book, I have to write by myself, because when I start writing, you write in your soul, and nobody can read your soul and
Mhm.
write process. And but I had never time to write a book. But then it came the pandemic. And then suddenly I had time because we lost our freedom. And it was really in the very beginning that I knew how the book should be called. Because in that time where we lost our freedom, I went alone into the mountains. And then
Yeah.
suddenly I felt the freedom again. And I just looked down into the valley and I felt down there all the craziness about what happened in that time. And suddenly,
Mhm.
when I was there, I could breathe, and all my senses had again the room to travel. And that was the reason why I knew the book has to be called In the Mountain There is Freedom.
That's a brilliant evocation of how the name came into being. I am going to ask you some things that I read about in the book, which particularly, let's say, moved me. But starting off with, this is something about how you became a climber. You mentioned in the book that you witnessed, or you were quite young, you were maybe about 4, when your father had a bad climbing accident. And I think at that point, you said that you did not want to become a climber. But this shifted, and your perspective on the mountains transformed from a source of fear to a place of freedom. Can you talk about what that defining shift was?
Yeah, really, it's a hard story to see your father after the accident, after his big fall on an alpine route in the hospital. I thought really the mountains will take my father away, and in that moment, I thought I will never go climbing. I will never be in the mountains, and I hope that my father also stopped mountaineering and climbing, because I had a lot of fear about that. And then there was this one amazing moment when my father took me into the mountains on a very slowly way, and he explained me about the beauty of the nature, about everything. And he took me on his hand, and then suddenly I realized, oh, when I reached the summit, that he was so proud of me, what I achieved. And that was the moment I was looking up to my father, and I feel how much love he sent to me, because in his smiles and everything, that I knew exactly, wow, In the mountain, it's not only scary, it's not only dangerous, it has also a lot of beauty. And later on, I even experienced that when you expose yourself, you even when you're on the race's edge, you even more feel what's life about. As more as you go on the edge, as more intense everything gets. And that was actually the start to be a climber.
I can relate. I was also introduced to the mountains by my father, my parents. We would go backpacking in the Himalayas when I was a young boy. So I think that brought that early love for the mountains. And I know what you talk about being on the edge and how that makes us feel more alive, more tuned in with our senses. And I think being in nature and being exposed, like you said, to its most raw form, I think it creates perhaps sensations that are so unique. I am going to ask about different period of your journey as an athlete, as a climber. You have had maybe 5 decades, Thomas, of adventures and accomplishments all over the world. So it's hard to really know where to start. But I will start with a place that's close to me here, both emotionally and personally. I started climbing in 2004. And I think maybe that was around the time you and Alex started coming to Yosemite. My journey into climbing was kind of fueled by a lot of your stories. You spoke about being inspired by a photo of Wolfgang Gullit climbing Yosemite. Maybe you can talk about a couple of memorable stories, which also highlight the cultural exchange that you were part of, because I don't know if you were traveling to the US before that. I didn't know if there were many European climbers besides Wolfgang, etc. So, how's that cultural exchange like of you coming to Yosemite, climbing on our hallowed wall, becoming another stone monkey in the process?
First of all, the story is really this picture was amazing. When I saw Wolfgang Güllich, it was actually in a catalog of a sports shop. And I cut this out with a scissor, and this picture was in my child room. And he has brown skin from the sun, a short, naked body, you see, and he's hanging with one hand on the alien roof. And
Yeah.
this picture, I, I can see it. You see, I have goosebumps now. I see this picture, and this impressed me so much. And I said, how this can be. And I want to be as good as Wolfgang. So we start to train. And finally, there was 97 when I can make this dream true, that I flew over to Yosemite and tried to climb the Salathé. Actually, I wanted to climb the Salathé with my brother 1 year before, but I had an injury. I couldn't go there. And he made the first red point ascent of this route, and it was amazing. It was a blast with the pictures, and Heinz Zack took it, went to all covers, and I was in the hospital, and I said, damn it, want to be there too. And then, of course, I went with and that's also my character. I went with a total crazy plan. I want to do then the Salathé because I had a lot of knowledge what Alex experienced. I want to do Salathé on the original route on the 19th pitch, which is even harder than the variation of the monster of it, and everything one day. That was my big dream. And I was fighting for this big dream, but I lost at the end. But you want to say, I'm coming from Bavaria. First time I flew the plane, it was my first time. And I went to San Francisco. My English was very bad. My English was very bad. I was somehow thrown out from the airport. first time driving a car automatic, I was kind of like, oh my God. It was, it was big adventure, only like the cultural side, like be a Bavarian, barely speaking English and try to, yeah, we went to Joshua Tree to yeah, acclimatize in crack climbing. And then we went to Yosemite with my friend who support me on this dream. And yeah, and then I continue. I learned English better because then I was somehow in the community. And I have really to say, on that time, the stone monkeys were not born already. It was just my first, yeah, feeling of climbing in Yosemite. And it was amazing. At the end, I did the Salathi with 2 falls, but uh, in one push in 1.5 days. So it was okay for me. And next year, I went back with Alex to climb the right side, El Nino, on the along the North American wall, and that was the people already knew us, and then we were in the community of Camp 4, and
Yeah.
we were also kinda leading climbers there because there was no Alex Honnold there. There was somehow we were the strongest climber in that moment. And then we climbed the North American wall, and then the kind of stone monkey, the stone monkey scene starts to get born with Cedar Wright, with Changu Chuck, with Dean Potter, with Ivolinov area, because we were always hiding because we were not legal in the valley, because we always had a problem. Everybody knows this huge
Yeah.
problem. Only legal for 10 days or 15 days in the valley, and then you have to go out. And when you have a huge project, you need 1.5 months. So we just sneak around the boulders, sleep there, here, and if a ranger came, we just shout like, "Oh, oh," and then it was the monkey call. And from that, because hiding and the monkey call means just here it's safe. We are here. Here are the monkeys. So everything is cool.
You came here barely knowing English, and you had to learn how to drive automatic. By the way, I think it's a lot harder the other way around, because I know when Americans travel to Europe and they have to learn how to drive stick, they struggle. And so, anyway, so you had to do that, and then you had to come and learn the technique, crack climbing techniques, which are somewhat, in some ways, unique to California, especially offer climbing. Sounds like you made really quick progress, right? You came in with training you had back from your crags, your training facilities, and you quickly adapted to the climbing in Joshua Tree, climbing in the valley. What were you doing that helped you so quickly acclimate to the US style of climbing, and then start setting records?
I think the reason was because we are not grown up in a gym, so we are grown up in the alpine world. So from the childhood, we already were climbing. We learned in the alpine walls, in the multi-pitch on multi-pitch route. We have to place cams. We are or pins and on limestone. So we just have to adapt, and we never saw a problem. We always were searching for solutions. That's our way how we climb. We love to face challenges. And if it's something hard, we try to find a solution to make it easier. And that's the reason why we trained. And for example, I went to just to show the progress. I went to Joshua Tree and I climbed a 5'9", and I had pumped arms. After 2 weeks, I already climbed a 4. Sorry, I climbed a 512D crack, and at the end, it was 513B. With the solidity, I was able to climb. So the progress went very good. So for some reason, I can say there was just the icy surface, and I have to break through the crust. I can I can use all my potential what I have, and we were very well trained because in that time I already climbed on limestone um, 514A.
Sure. That actually makes sense, a lot of sense, because about 7, 8 years ago, I had another friend of mine from Germany, Ollie, who came to climb in California. And he also grew up in the mountains like you did. And I think his second or third day here, we went and climbed the rostrum. And I was completely shocked, stupefied at how quickly he adapted to climbing cracks and even white cracks. I mean, the hardest white crack on the rostrum is only like 510A, but I would have thought that somebody who's used to climbing limestone and shipping bowls would need more time to adapt to this style. But I think because of maybe the same quality, because of his curiosity and his approach in being able to learn and find solutions, I think he was able to climb that well.
Mhm. And there's one point you have to know. What I learned, I never want to compare, and this is what I immediately understand. You should never compare the rating of Europe with the American rating. So that's a total different story. And with this, I traveled to America, and 5'9" means not 6A. No, 5'9" means
Right.
5'9". And you should, because if I climb a 6A and I have pumped arms, then I will be depressed. But at the end, I climbed a 5'9" crack, like gentle, smoothly. I was happy. And then I continued. But if you always compare what you already achieved, I will be depressed even if I fight for a 512 or a 513A. And
Sure.
a total different story. In that time, I
Sure.
really can compare that the route, like the Salathi, what I did the first was, it was my first experience in cracks. It was 513B, and I climbed 514A on limestone. So it was, for me, similar.
No, I think that totally makes sense. I think in a way, it's also classic gym to crack story here in the US. When people who climb higher grades at the gym, they suddenly go to Yosemite or another trad climbing area and they get gobsmacked because they can't understand how it can be so difficult. So you're right. You have to understand that these are just it's a different style. One just has to be humble and learn that style. And then eventually, like you have shown, you can succeed at the highest level. One other thing I want to ask you is, so there was this cultural exchange that was happening, right? You were in Yosemite climbing with the legends of that era in the US. And I'm guessing you were both teaching them things and also learning things. So can you maybe speak to a couple of things that you are proud of that you helped teach American how to climb better, climb more efficiently, and maybe one of the
Yeah.
things that you picked up that have also influenced your future climbing?
First of all, um, I met Mark Chapman, for example, and he showed me a lot about Yosemite climbing, Ron Cork, and many others, and Dean Potter, and we played around. We were bouldering, and they showed me a lot about what it means to climb on a cup. And first of all, I really was very humble in the first year, and I just was, and this is very important, that you were listening to others, and
Mm.
you learn, and only when you listen, then you can adapt this to your skills. Then 1 year later, we were already a little bit more experienced Yosemite climbers. We came with a total new idea, and this new idea how to approach the walls, maybe harder walls, adapt to the whole. It changed the whole El Cap climbing, the big wall climbing, free climbing, because our style was okay. We are ground up. We make a ground up ascent. We try to find the route on the North American wall. We have to climb on different ways around the North American wall, and then after 5 days, we found the route. We placed some bolts where there were no bolts at all because there was no route. So we also accept all the ethic of Yosemite, of the big walls, that you don't have to add a bolt on existing route. So, but we found the way how we can climb it, and then we went to the top of El Cap with 300-400 meters of fixed ropes, and then we wrap down, and sometimes we mini traction on the hardest parts, and we trained the moves. And then when we know we can make it, then we start again ground up red point ascent in one push in 3 days. And that was the start. First, the people were saying, "Oh, that's not fair." But at the end, talking about Tommy Caldwell and Dean Potter, and actually everybody, they going up if they want to climb the Salafi or the free rider. So they are going up to the top of El Capitan and throw down their fixed ropes, and they mini traction the head wall or the free rider, or even Tommy and Alex Honnold did it before he got wins. Everybody's doing that, and so that's a total new chapter of free climbing El Cap. It started
Mm.
98.
Yeah, no, you certainly brought, let's say, modern day tactics to Yosemite, and now people have taken it that much further. People are stashing gear, people are stashing food. It's gone another direction, and it's obvious. You also took some lessons from people that you mentioned, and you added that to your repertoire, and I think that's allowed you to succeed in such a impressive way in Yosemite. Kind of a fun question to ask you. I noticed that, well, you are also a musician, Thomas, and I believe you were influenced to some degree by American music, back from the 90s, 80s, whatnot. Did you get a chance to see any concerts or shows while you were here?
No, I see some shows of Greengrass
Yeah.
because we went there, and okay, there were some small concerts, but I never was on my on a concert of my favorite bands there. But I visit all the great bands I want to visit in Germany. Maybe
Mm.
one guy really I missed, it was Jim Morrison, because when
Ah,
you read my
yeah.
book, he influenced me also a lot.
Mm.
His kind of craziness, his be searching for something which is maybe not in this world, and this is always what touched me totally. And I'm also searching when I climbed the route something which is kind of nearly not existing, because when you climb, you're part of the nature and it's so intense. And this is where Jim Morrison did with the music. When I was younger, I looked like a little bit like Jim Morrison, and so it was. I don't want to say I adopt, but it was part of my young young years. And but then, of course, Nirvana. I listened to Nirvana in Munich, and then it came, and that influenced a lot our music. I play with my band, and it's Caius. They are from Palm Springs. This stoner rock, and I'm a full stoner rocker. So it's
Yeah.
and we named our roots plastic surgery disaster, and that name came from the roots on the right side of El Cap.
Yeah. I was going to ask you how your band got its name. And then, yes, Jim Morrison and the Doors, they were influential all over the world. It looks like they also helped you break on through to the other side. Moving on to maybe a different chapter in your life, you have gone to climb Latok multiple times. It's been, let's say, an enduring obsession, this determination that you've had. I'm curious, what is it about this particular climb that keeps drawing you back, given all the challenges and the logistics and everything else that it takes to mount these kind of expeditions? You have gone back over and over. And what have you learned from your attempts on this climb?
I'm at the moment. I packed all my stuff for another round on Chop Toy for the Latok one, and I have to say, Latok one, it it's maybe my personal center of my universe as a climber. And this Latok two, the whole story to be a professional climber starts, and then we saw, and it's also part of the later group, the Ogre. 2001, it was maybe one of my best expeditions I ever made, because it was a huge run. Who made the second ascent of the Ogre, and they called the Ogre in the alpine scene. It's the hardest peak in the world. It's not K2, it's not Mount Everest, it's the Ogre, because there were already 30 expedition after the first descent, and the route of the first descent, it was not anymore possible because of the Serac. It changed the way. So you have to choose a total different way, which is yeah, really not so easy. 30 expedition of the best climbers failed on the second ascent. And then 2001, there was a huge run on this peak. There were 5 expeditions there, and I realized by myself I couldn't do that to have a competition on such a also kind of difficult and also dangerous mountain like the Ogre. Then I stepped back. I told everybody, they were also Americans. I told everybody, you can go, you make your first try. I do something different. I made in that time when the other tried to achieve the Ogre, I made an amazing first descent of the Ogre 3 over a great arete. It's nearly 7,000 meters high. And up the base camp, a beautiful mountain. It's just gorgeous. And if you see them, oh wow, that's actually the mountain to climb. It's beside Later too. And then we came down to base camp and everybody failed on the Ogre again. And I don't say, I said nothing. I said, yeah, wow. What'd you do? Now we go home. And I said, very sorry. And we were acclimatized. And then 2 weeks later, we could send the Ogre, the second ascent. And on that moment, and that time when we were standing on the top of the Ogre, I had a view to Choctaw, and I knew also there's the Latok One North Ridge. It's the American problem. All the Americans, they tried on this phase, and especially Jim Donini, George Lowe, Jeff Lowe, and Michael Kennedy. They also called it, I think they called 97. They nearly reached the summit of Lato 1 through the North Ridge. It was the most remarkable failure in alpine history. And nobody till then reached the high point so far. And suddenly I realized everybody's failing there, a lot of Americans. And suddenly I realized, yeah, maybe I have to check into Choctaw one day. And it was then 2015. And then I went in there and I was blown away by the beauty of the Choctaw. And Jim Donini, he described it in amazing words in his way to say he was standing in the Choctaw with me. He also went with me on this expedition just to do some little trekking, and he was standing in the Choctaw and he said he saw so many peaks in the world, but he never saw this huge walls. It's the mountain cathedral of the world. And for me, Choctaw has such an energy, such a power, such a beauty, and also it's so, actually the mountains are super dangerous and difficult. Actually, it seems to be that as a human you are not allowed to touch. And then I'm jump back to the rock and roll what Jim Morrison said. But if you have courage, you can break through to the other side. That means not fight, but to get so connected to the danger, to everything. And it's so fascinating. I maybe I don't find the right word, but I burn for the Choctaw, and I really failed the first year. I failed the second year. I failed the third year. But I know from 2001 on the Ogre, there will be one day that you were with a great team on the right moment, and then the mountains show you can go. And I know exactly when I'm going, when I have the feeling it's right, because I try to connect with the mountains. I try to talk with the mountains, and when they let me know, then they open the doors. Then I will go, and then I hopefully can experience this what I'm searching for.
As you were speaking, Thomas, I was getting goosebumps. It is evident that you have this very deep, profound connection with Latok and that part of the Himalayas. I realize I should have asked you this sooner, but many people listening to this podcast may not be as familiar with these mountains. So, can you give us a quick description of where
Sure.
these mountains are and what is the landscape that we are speaking about?
Everybody knows the 8,000-meter peak. You go in from Skardu. We are in Pakistan. In the northern part, we are going to Skardu, then with the jeep to Askole, and then actually the main highway goes straight in the Baltoro glacier, and then you get to the Concordia place, and then the huge giants show up. The mountains of the mountains. It's K2, Gesherbrum, Mushabrum, Broad Peak, and there are side valleys like the Biafo Glacier and the Choctaw Glacier. And actually, the Choctaw Glacier, it starts on a very tight valley. and then it opens up, and it's kind of, you have to sneak inside, and it's not a clear highway. It's far away from the path of all the climbers, of all the attention. And these peaks are more silent. They're nobody, and they're 7,000 meter high. So they don't have the attention to the world of mountaineering, world of, yeah, mountaineers or alpinists. But for some alpinists who are searching for the hardest walls, they know exactly you have to go these valleys to the side, and then you find walls nobody climbed before. And the Choctaw, maybe you have to search for some pictures, and the Choctaw is just amazing. There's a flat glacier, like a huge plateau, and from this glacier, 2,000 meter are rising up to the sky of the Karakoram, nearly vertical walls, and it's so fascinating. It's brilliant. And my friend made a sticker, and if I
Ah,
show you the sticker, it's
ah,
like, it's also kind of art, and
wow.
and yeah, the Choctaw, it's just a magic place for extreme alpinists. Somehow it's the heaven, but the heaven on earth.
Absolutely. No, it sounds like it's a very special place indeed. It's even more special because it's, let's say, off the beaten path, so to speak. I mean, the Karakoram in Pakistan and the Himalayas is already, quite far from the Western world. And within that, you have found this series of alpine jewels. Also, to give people a perspective on the logistics, this is not as simple as flying to San Francisco, renting a car, and driving 3.5 hours to Yosemite. This is a bit more involved. So, can you just give us a peek into what it takes to get to the base of any of these big massives? You're flying in, you're getting visas, you're flying into Islamabad, then you're like doing all kinds of things to be prepared, not just in terms of your travel, in terms of taking your gear, in terms of preparing a team that can accompany you and help you succeed.
Yeah, well, expedition starts half year before, and you have to organize all your equipment. For this expedition, I organized more or less everything by my own, because I have to get all the cargo together. So I flew 2 weeks before 400 kilos to Pakistan, and then the agent took it from the customs and sent it already to Skadu. And yeah, in few days, I traveled just with 30 kilos, and then we fly to Islamabad, and now we are lucky that we don't have to make the briefing in Islamabad to spend. It's Islamabad. It it's a cool city, but it's super hot. You don't want to be there, and it's way better if you get the flight. If you get the flight to Skadu, and we get the flight on the same day, so we stay at the airport, and then we just change the flight, and then we flying to Skadu. But Skadu is a very sketchy airport. So if there are clouds in the mountains, the plane can't land. So maybe the flight will be canceled. Then you have to go by bus. So then you have to see 1.5 hours flight from Islamabad to Skadu compared to 2 days of bus ride through the Karakoram Highway. Oh, I really hope. I've done the Karakoram Highway many times. Of course, somehow it's also good to have the experience a few times, because you dive immediately into this Islamic world, and a lot of people are afraid of this areas, but I think if you behave right, everything is cool, and I like it. I love it. The people are very friendly. And then you're in Skado, then you go to the bazaar, buy some stuffs, vegetables, and then you go with the jeep from Skado to Askole for 1 day. And then from Askole, you walk 4 days into the base camp. The first part on the main track on towards Baltoro, and then there you see a lot of trekkers, Asian, Europeans, Americans, climbers for the
Yeah.
8,000 meter peaks. They are totally different than we are. And we, as the Stone Monkeys, we are going just
Yeah.
few hours on the main track, and then we take a sharp left turn into the Choctaw Valley. And then from that point, you see nobody. And I'm sure for the next, when you're there for the next 2 months, you see no trackers, nobody. And that's so cool. It's I like it, so I love it.
Thomas, you have a way with words. I think you're a natural storyteller because as you were describing this, I felt like I was being transported. Uh, if not on a flight, but maybe on the Karakoram highway itself. And you paid your dues, over successive expeditions. Fortunately, now there's a flight to Skardu. But one important thing is you have made several expeditions to some of these cultures, remote places, ancient civilizations in a way that few Westerners have. You've had a degree of contact. You speak about your interactions with the Balti people and observing their way of life. And when you were in, I think, Kashmir in India, you speak about how you see the, different religions coming together. You were also, uh, let's say, witness to political strife in Kashmir and all the time going to these places. I am curious, what are maybe some of the most impactful lessons that you have learned by being in close proximity with these cultures? And then how have these experiences, let's say, shaped your perspective on climbing, but maybe on life and of human nature?
First of all, I have to say I was a climber. I was searching for great walls, and I am looking for pictures, and I saw the walls in Patagonia. I saw first the walls of course, the wall of the wall is the El Capitan. So the start was we traveled to America, and but the culture, of course, it's different, but we are kind of the same, Europeans and the guys in America. But but then I was searching for the big walls in Pakistan. Suddenly, I traveled through this culture, and I'm that's my maybe my nature. I'm so open minded. I always send smiles to the people, and I get back smiles, and I immediately had so many friends in Baltistan, and when I went to India, it was the same way. Even I know, okay, the Indians don't like the Pakistanis, and either way. So I had everywhere my my friends, and somehow when I get older, I realized the climbing. Of course, I was searching for great lines and great walls, but the climbing brought me through this the way to the walls through the cultures. And I learned so much. I learned about religious. I'm a religious person. I'm Christian, and also I have to say I pray. I talk to swamis in India, and we talked about how God influenced us, and it was so intense. And then I realized I wrote this also in my book that God is like sitting on the top of the mountain, and we just approach with our language from different sides, the Islamic world from the north side, we from the east side, the Hindus from the other side. But we all do the same. We want to be good people. And sometimes it affects me so much when I get home and I feel that against all foreigners, there's so less, what's the word? So less respect. Because I have a huge problem with the nationalism. I'm so open minded because I realized we are all human beings. It doesn't matter which color, which origin you are, which religion you belong to. We are all humans, and we all have to stand together. And climbing and mountaineering showed me that we have to hold our hands all together to solve the problems of the world. And the problems are huge. You just have to go up in the mountains, and then you realized how far we are already with our climate. And we still waste our energy to create wars. And this is what I don't understand. And we really should stop this immediately and take advantage about our planet. And that's the most important thing. And people also say you shouldn't travel because you it's bad for the environment. And at the moment I say start to travel to understand that we are all humans. And I think if we realize this, then we immediately stop the war. We immediately find solution and not problems, sitting on our problems.
I cannot agree more. Having been fortunate to have having lived in different cultures, I think it's given me a bit of appreciation about why some people think differently. But then at the core of it, I think we all want the same thing. I think we all are looking for the same values in life and the same values in others that we meet. Uh, you have traveled to some of the most remote, beautiful places all over the world. So we just spoke about the Indian Himalayas, the Pakistani Himalayas, but you've also spent time in South America, Thomas. You've also climbed in Antarctica. These are some of the world's, yes, most majestic, but also, let's say, the most fragile environments when it comes to a world shifting quickly with the impact of climate change. So, this is a listener question from Mohit Oberoi. He wants to know, what have you witnessed when it comes to this impact that the world's uh, mountains have undergone over the last few decades? And on the climbing perspective, has that made, let's say, the climbing more challenging? Has that made it easier? Yeah, what has your experience been?
I know I put a lot of impact in our environment to travel, for example, to Antarctica and to Pakistan, or to these remote areas. But on the hand, I have with this opportunity to show the people how far we already are. So I want to be also a voice what I experienced in this world, and to show the people. And I think the solution to save our planet, it has to be something different than just to stop traveling. And I really have to say the climbing changed a lot in Patagonia, in India, in this Himalaya range, in Karakoram range. And for instance, when I start to climb there, I already planned the expedition to start in the beginning of July or mid-June, because the July is always the sunniest, best month in these areas. And we are talking about Karakoram, and in the Himalayas, a little bit more to the east, it's the pre-monsoon and the post-monsoon. And but it changed a lot. And now I'm traveling. I start to travel end of July, because in July these walls are nearly impossible,
Oh
because the
wow.
zero level raises up to 6,500 meters. The mountains are changing radically, and you see it easily on the glaciers. And especially in the Alps, all the glaciers disappear. Not like disappear a little. It goes
Mm.
exponential. It goes expont. How you say?
Yeah,
It
yeah,
goes
no, exponentially, exponentially.
exponent.
Yeah,
Sorry for my
yeah,
English.
yeah, yeah. No,
Now,
it's good.
uh, you realize, as longer as we talk, as more poor my English will be, because you get tired. I have now a very good lesson, because when I go to Pakistan, I go with two Americans. So I have to speak all the
Oh.
time English. And when we make a podcast, when I go back, my English will be way better. But talk again, go back. So it changed radically, and especially the north faces and the east faces are nearly not anymore climbable. And I'm also
Mm.
curious about, there's American team now on the Mashabroom, and they are amazing climbers. I actually, you should be proud of them. They are amazing climbers. They did the Chanu North Face. They called
Mm.
out trip in a push. It was the most mind blowing ascent I ever hear. Really. And they are at the moment on the Mashabroom, and I don't know if they will have a chance there, because Mashabroom East Face, it the if it's so warm, radical dangerous. So of course you can
Mm.
climb with a lot of risk, but for me, risk is part of climbing. And I know I can die, but the main thing what we want to do is to understand the mountain, and the mountain always show you how far
Mm.
to go and how far you're allowed to go, because the biggest success will be always not to reach the summit, to come back alive from an expedition. And suddenly I realized, after all this expedition I already done on Choktoy, that July it's too warm.
Wow.
And yeah.
Yeah, no, the world and the mountains are changing faster than we would, yeah, we could have ever imagined.
There's
Moving, yes.
one thing, a very specific thing for last year or 2 years ago. Mont Blanc was closed for all climbers, so nobody can guide on Mont Blanc for 1 month in August, because it was too warm. It
Oh
was too
wow.
dangerous.
Oh
So it
wow.
changed a lot.
That's sure. Not only in the faraway mountains, but even in places closer to home. The mountains are shifting so quickly. Moving a bit inwards, Thomas, from talking about expeditions to a little bit about who you are and how your relationships have been. You know, you have had one of the most famous partnerships in the history of climbing with your brother Alex. Not enough time to talk about all of that. I mean, but you know, you became known as the Huber bomb, or I think that means the Huber boys. My German is way worse than your English is. So but anyway, so uh, what I want to ask is, you know, over the decades of climbing together, your relationship with Alex has likely evolved, both personally, professionally. How do you and Alex, let's say, balance, your own strong aspirations with your shared objectives? You are both highly regarded professionals in your own right, but you also have this team, which is the Huber bomb. How have you found a way to balance that?
I think we learned a lot from this relation that everybody need, even if you're a team, if you're so close and you team up on great walls, make first descents. But we also learned that everybody needs the space, and we are individuals, and to respect also the way of the other. So that was also the reason that Alex did sometimes his own project and I did my project. And somehow, even if we respect our space, and this is also in the book, because sometimes it's also kind of sketchy because everybody is looking from the side. These are the famous Hoover brothers. They are looking strong. And then suddenly there is this, they want to know, who is the better climber? Who is the stronger alpinist? And that's the stupid thing. So from the outside, it creates sometimes the problem. And we also had sometimes this yeah, kind of competition. And but also the competition helped us to keep on going, because if Alex was not so in shape and I was strong, Alex, he wants to be as strong as me. And then he went stronger than me. And then I said, no, this I don't want to see. And then I start training again. And maybe also about this partnership helped us to reach a very high level in that what we did.
Yeah, no, you share glimpses into your partnership in the book, which are really interesting. So sometimes even, I have a younger brother, and it makes me reflect on the relationship I have with my brother when I hear about you talk about some of the way you guys have both been challenged by each other, but then I've kind of used that in a positive way to push yourself even harder. So, I mean, yeah, healthy peer pressure is how we say it in America. Um, your book is, it's so raw in a way. It's kind of, you have talked about deeply personal things. So, one of the things I want to ask you is you mentioned that as a child, you were perhaps a little bit overweight, and maybe there were more beautiful children. Yet you have become one of the world's top climbers. How has your relationship to your body and physical fitness evolved over your career? And yeah, let's start with that.
Yeah, actually, very soon, I discovered by myself I'm a good skier, and I love to go skiing. And suddenly, I realized even if I'm a little bit, I'm not overweight, but I'm compared to Alex, I was a little bigger. But suddenly, when you do something, the muscles are growing a little bit. I was fully driven into to do sports, running, playing in the woods, and be curious and skiing, and then very soon it starts with the climbing, and we are climbing because we were not born in the mountains, so we were far away from the mountains. So we trained our climbing skills on trees, and with all these games, we yeah actually this little thing in the childhood was already gone. But there is also a rule: if you're not a handsome uh, child, you will be a handsome you get a handsome man. On the other side, if
I did not know that rule. Is that a German rule, or where
We
did you?
say
Or this?
we say that.
Ah, okay. I like
Oh.
that.
No, actually, uh, uh, I think we are happy. I also have to talk for my brother. We are happy who we are, and we never hide something. We are who we are, and this is what we learned. Sometimes things are not so cool. Sometimes there's nobody perfect. There's nobody perfect.
Yeah.
Maybe the filter of the camera can make you perfect, but this is not what I love and what I like. But and that's why I think the book is in a way very honest because there is no filter in the book, and this is who I am. I'm very authentic, and I think
Yeah.
if you the book, you immediately feel that I'm sitting maybe next to you and tell you a story.
I read the book, and now talking to you, I can just sense that you are very direct and you're very transparent, and you have this level of vulnerability that I think, yeah, it's inspiring and it's touching. And I will share this with with people who are not watching on YouTube and are listening. That you have your rock star good looks, Thomas, and your lovely hair. That German expression is true. You're not a an overweight chubby kid anymore. Let me just say that.
Yeah, I'm very lucky with my hair, really. Once I cut my hair when I get 40, people say, okay, that's also good looking, but now I think it's a bad idea if I cut my hair because you see it on my beard. It's also like your beard. It's getting a little gray. Yeah. And
Yeah,
people really say, okay, hey, Thomas, why you color your hair? So I have no gray hair on my long hair.
uh,
Only when I make a little dot, you see here on the side.
I see the
Uh,
sideburns. Yeah, I see the little white showing in your, yes, yes.
the sideburn already white, but here, if I do it like that to be a little bit like rock and roll star or a rock and roller, then I have brownish hair.
For what I do not need to have long hair. But in your in your moonlighting career as a rock star, you need to be banging your head, right? So those, you would not have the
Whoa.
same visual effect if you did not have these beautiful locks.
For me, music, I wrote this also in my book. Maybe I'm not the best singer, but one thing I know exactly on stage, I can be a beast. It's also when I'm on stage and make a lecture, it's the same thing when I sing and shout in the microphone. I feel in this moment the weight of all what I experienced. And actually, I'm singing from that what I experienced in the mountains of my life with all this up and downs what I had. To be a warrior, to be never, I never give up. And then, for example, get back to the music. I have the sound of the amps and the guitars of my band buddies, and we are playing since 20 years together. I'm surfing on the sound of the deep guitars, and then I'm singing, and it's so amazing. I love it.
And Thomas, you also share some significant, let's say, injuries and debacles you've had through your life. You've had several very threatening episodes. How have you been able to bounce back? Any lessons we can learn from your ability to overcome and stay physically and mentally in shape for some of these big audacious goals you have?
There are many things, but first of all, I want to go back to the book about the idea of the book. I was in a talk show in Germany because I had a huge fall. I survived. I fell 16 meters, and I talked about this experience, what I had to be close on the other side. I was luckily survived, and then I told to the audience this story that I believe in everything, and when you survive, you shouldn't look back. You just should, like to be a climber, look forward step by step. And then one journalist was sitting in the audience, and he said, "Wow, Thomas, that's such a huge, great story. You have shared this story written in a book. Other people that who have no more hope." And I say, as long as you breathe, there's always a hope. You always can change something. You are able to go forward. And this is what I said. And then he said, "Please write this book." And then it came the pandemic, and then I start writing the book. And in the book, people always come to my slideshows, or they want to read the book. Of course, what do you achieve? Because that's our thing. That's our gold medals on the wall. What you have. I've done the Shivling. I've done the Ogre. I've done the Cerro Torre. I've done multiple times the Capitan in free climbing. But but that's only the trophies I got from my life. But who I am, it's a total different story. The biggest lesson I got always when I failed, when I get injured, were in the valley. And suddenly I realized that only in the valley you see the beauty of the mountains, not when you're on the rim, on the top. Then you don't. No. And and I'm a climber, I'm a mountaineer, and I said, "Okay, now you're a climber and you're in the hospital, and but you see the mountains, and what you want to do?" "Yes, I want to climb." "And how you can climb the mountain?" "Yeah, go step by step." And if you always want to be focused on the summit, you will never reach it, because the summit is big. And you have a goal, and then you just take the goal by the side, and then you go with all what you have, all your skills, your energy, your power, your fire, your love, everything what you are able to put out from your life into the next step. And then you're already a little higher. And it, with all my injury, I learned that I'm a fighter. I always fight back to reach at the end the summit. And in that case, in my life, I learned so much to be, yeah, to be strong. And I always have to say, as long as I live, I always have a hope, and I always find a solution
Yeah.
somewhere.
I will take this as this is going to be one big takeaway from this conversation is I'll reflect on it, Thomas, which is what you said, where the beauty of the mountains is from the valley when you're looking up and looking out rather than from the top, which I think I have to repeat it a couple of times because it is this deep insight. Thomas, through your book, you talk about the importance of family, from your own childhood experiences, then later on meeting your partner, starting your family. How has your role as a husband and a father influenced your approach to risk taking and self care through your climbing? And has it also changed your training or recovery routine?
I have to say, when I was getting father, I was 30. We get our first son, it didn't change anything in risk taking as a climber, as a mountaineer, because what I have to say, I was so deep connected always with to be alive. And I love the life, the community, yeah, the friends and everything. And for that reason, I loved also the family, even if I fight sometimes with my brother, but it's my base. And suddenly with this responsibility and with this love of family, I was able to experience my, because it was not planned, but suddenly I experienced that I have now I plant my own tree, my family tree. And then I was able to grow that, but made no difference what I was doing, because I always thought when I'm going there, I want to connect with the mountain and I want to come back. I'm not going to the mountain to die. I know exactly that I can die easily in the mountains, but I also can die easily on the street. I can uh, life is on one moment it's over, but it's not now. And I had so many close calls in my life, and somehow I had always my guardian angels beside me, and I'm so thankful for that. And for that, I have to say, the family didn't change anything. Only my experience as a human, as a climber, changed a lot. Of course, when I was young, I was more stupid. I didn't know what I'm doing. Now I know exactly how much risk is, for instance, a Latok one rock face. Do you know? Should I tell you I was 4 times in the Choctaw for this wall? I never touched the wall so far because it was always changing. And I still believe it's possible, because this line I see in this wall, it impacts so much. So this is about all the process of learning as a climber. And this also respect my family, that I travel with this responsibility of not to be a family father, to be alive. So I take care about myself as good as I can. And I think it's also not very good if your family goes with you into the wall, because there will all this distortion about some thoughts. Oh, should I do that? So when I go, I want to be, my mind should be totally clean, that I'm totally connect with this environment. My wings go into the rock, into the ice, and then the mountains will tell me, Thomas, now it's time to go. Or Thomas, now it's the time to go up.
Wow, you went to the Choctaw 4 times without even, let's say, climbing on the main objective. I mean, that shows a remarkable, yeah, level of determination and focus. You, in your book, describe, transitioning from, let's say, a farming background to a life that you have centered around climbing. Uh, can you share with us how you've made a financially rewarding career? How have you navigated the financial challenges of pursuing such a life? How do you make a living, which is something that people want to know? You have this great website where you provide different kinds of services. I want to have a Huber Bomb t shirt. I don't know how to order in the US yet. and you also have a speaking tour, you have sponsors. So yeah, like how do you make a living?
As the main living is we work on stage. We are artists, and go back to my friend. One guy inspired me a lot, and I wrote a lot about Dean Potter in the book, uh, because he always said climbing is not the extreme sport, it's art. And I really have to say he was so true. I never say again I'm an extreme alpinist. I'm an extreme artist. And because I try to connect with the nature, and then I see a line, and at the end I experience something great, and this art comes then on stage, and then I talk to the people, I inspire people, and I show the pictures. I create goosebumps on the spectators, tears, laughs, everything. And this is kind of entertainment and art, and this is how we get the money. So we are traveling from town to town. Okay, if you want to know, I go to town, building up my digital slide projector. Before it was the normal slide projectors, and put the cables, so I have no roadies. I do everything by myself. I put up the screen, and then okay, drink maybe one beer to get a little bit cooler, and then waiting for the audience. Then the people buy tickets, then they come in, and then I say, "Hello, I'm Thomas Tuba," and blah blah blah, and then I tell the story. 1 hour, then a break, then we sell T-shirts, autographs, and stuff like that. Then another hour, and then the people go home happy. And then at the end, I'm alone. I take down all the stuff, go to the hotel. Next day, travel to a different city. The same story again. And that's also part of the art. You tell the story sometimes 30 days in a row, every day in a different town, but you have to talk like to the audience that you tell the story the first time. And this is what I'm good in that. I learned a lot to to be an entertainer, to touch people's hearts, and actually to guide them a little bit, to help them or to guide them to find their own ways, to be more courage to make a decision. Because I think many people, they are totally in their trapped in their life to go to work, and they are not happy. And I think the most important thing at the end of the days is to be happy. And and to and the worst thing what can happen, that at the end of your days, you have to leave this wonderful life and world, to to say, fuck, why I didn't do that. And this shouldn't be happen.
Thomas, I feel very lucky that I have you on the show, but I also deeply desire the opportunity to see you talk live, because yes, I have heard about your ability to um, create fantastic storytelling on stage. I'm not sure if you have uh, ever come and talk or given shows in the US. But if you haven't, do you have any plans on doing that as part of the US book release?
I want to make shows in US, and I think there's a good opportunity, because I know exactly the people love what we do. And I also want to take also my brother uh,
Oh,
back in line, because I think Alex and I, Alex in his way, me in my way, we are talking about brothership. Also, Alex doing the same shows. We are very good in that. So we can entertain people. And I love to do that also in US. Of course, for me, it's not so easy. And maybe in the fall or next year, if people read the book, then they see maybe I can tell a good, cool story. And if people want to invite me, I will be ready to come over and make 5 shows or 10 shows in US. I love to do that. And yes, we did some shows in US. And there's one funny story. We did the first show 98 in a mountain shop in Yosemite Valley after we climbed the El Nino. And so we had the pictures already digital. We made some shows and we talked a little bit about Latok and stuff like that. And then we learned a special language in Camp 4, the Stone Monkey language. And if you listen to Dean or to Mark Chapman, or especially Mark Chapman, he used in every single sentence the F word. I don't want to say this because I know exactly you have the problem, but it was all the time the F word. And then suddenly it was our first sideshow in the public. The store was packed with people. So our English was sketchy, kind of like on a
Highline.
yeah on a road, bumpy road. Anyways, so we went through. People enjoyed, and then we said again, this was F great, and it was and we had fun, hard time, and it all the time, and suddenly people get, oh my god. Suddenly, the Python's Pete made a little paper, and he showed into us, don't use swear words, please. You're not allowed. And then I had no idea what means swear words. What means swear words? I said, you shouldn't talk about fuck. And then I said, oh, you don't understand. And then I said, you use it all the time. You learned us how to talk. And now we are not allowed to be as stone monkeys. And that was funny.
That's hilarious. That's such a good story. Thank you for sharing that. I guess now when you come back, I think you should use the effort all the time. I mean, I enjoy hearing it. Americans love hearing it, even if they don't admit it. I know we are coming to the end of our time. Everybody listening to this podcast, you guys need to go and buy this book, because if you buy this book and the book is amazing, then Thomas may be able to get the funds together to come to the US for a show with Alex. And we would all be so much better to hear you in person. Is the book available to the public now? I was fortunate to get an early copy that I could read. But is the book available? Where can people go to buy the book when it comes out?
This, I don't know actually where you can buy the book. Of course, on the web and in the bookstores for sure. The Angelo publication, you have to go on the website. I think they have a shop and you can order this. And what I know, at the end of July, the book is available. I have only a pre-copy, and some people already have copies. I get an award from American Alpine Club just recently for the rescue on Cerro Torre. That was the last story in my book because it was so intense. Because what I experienced there was way more important than any peak I climbed to save a friend's life. Because there's also one wonderful sentence what I want to mention now. In this point, Ismail said to me, he's always going with me in Choctaw in his simple Pakistani English. When we were not successful, we were not happy, but he said, Thomas, no worry. Because one thing you have to know, the mountain's not running away. Mountain always will be there. And if you are alive, you can do whatever you like. And he's so true. And when you save somebody's life, you've done the highest peak in your world. Can't be bigger.
Yeah.
Life can give you always the opportunity. You just have the motivation to go again. That's the reason sometimes why I step back when it's too dangerous, because I know my motivation is very high and life will give me an opportunity. And go back to the book. I know the book will be available the end of July, and I'm not here for the release.
Yeah.
But I hope with this podcast and some people you can spread a little bit that book is maybe something very special. It's maybe not a typical mountaineering climbing book. I think I guide through many centuries of climbing, about part of the evolution in climbing I described. And now I'm older, but still full on. My heart is full I'm still a young kid, a
Yeah.
young who wants to discover, be a rock and roller, and talk about rock and roll. The very special thing is when you read the book, and that's also part of the art of writing, because I want to create rooms and I want to take the hand of the writer and go with them through the Antarctica or to Baffin Island
Yeah.
and to hike through the valleys or to Cerro or to Choctaw. And and the one thing is, I'm not only writing about me, I write more about my partner, about who inspired me a lot. And at the end of the book, and this is part of the art, I wrote a song with my band Plastic Surgery Disaster. And the book is dedicated for my brothers and sisters. And that means it's not dedicated to Alex and Karina, to my sister. No, the brothers and sisters who think the same thing, the same way how I think. We are a huge community of stone monkeys, boys and girls, brothers and sisters. And this song, the lyrics, it describes actually all what I'm thinking by my heart, what was written in the book. And at the end, there's a QR code. If you go there, then suddenly it pops out a video with this song. And then you see Dean Potter, you see Ivo Nino, you see all the stone monkeys up was already in the book. And now you see them in person.
That's wonderful. I know that we talked about having you play a song, but we are running out of time. So I think this is a fitting way for people to go listen to you play along with some of these other icons of our sport. If they go and read the book and stay till the end, they get to hear you play some special song. I know you have to get back to packing, Thomas. It's been an amazing conversation. One final fun question before we let you go. You know, in the book, you write about having a box of toffee under your desk. Do you still have a sweet tooth? And then I'm curious, you know, you wake up in the morning, you get your cup of coffee. So that's important, even on the big walls. What is your go to snack for climbing these days?
So I don't have a toffee under my desk. But there's also this wonderful story. But you have to read the book about the toffee, because so it was the nickname at
Yes.
the in some and what I snack I like not in on expedition, and the biggest desire of a snack is a cold beer. And and I have also one amazing sentence, and it's a very simple sentence, but there's a lot of wise word in this sentence, and that's the last words I say on my slideshow. And I say, all the danger is done when in front of you is a pint of beer. When you've done with your work, when you achieve something great, when you're a doctor and you had a very complicated surgery to make, when everything is done, you open a beer and they say, and then it's over. And the same with climbing.
There is no beer here, but I raise you my uh, last dregs of coffee and wish you all the best for your upcoming trip. Looking forward to having you back here. All the best. Thank you for coming on the show today.
Thank you, Kush. It was a pleasure, and thank you for the space.
Wow, that was such a great chat with Thomas Huber, a true icon of climbing and mountaineering. His stories of epic ascents, his travels, his stories of resilience, his passion for the mountains, and his deep insights on living a life of purpose remind us that age is just a number and we are all capable of amazing things. Thomas's message of hope, his profound connection to the natural world, and his reminder to appreciate the journey, these are all takeaways we can carry with us as we continue to explore our own paths. He is on his way to Pakistan now, to the Karakoram. So let's wish him luck on his mission. We've had some incredible conversations on Asia's athletes so far, from ultra runners and surfers to climbers and kayakers and beyond. We have explored their challenges, their triumphs, and their secrets for living a life of adventure. If you have joined for the first time on the podcast, hope you have enjoyed this one, and we would love to see you back here for more. If you have listened to 3 or more episodes, I would love it if you could rate this podcast in your app of choice. It helps support the show. It helps bring the show to more listeners. So thanks again for coming today. Join us again next time as we explore the lives of other remarkable athletes who inspire us to embrace adventure, push our limits, and live life to the fullest. So until next time, my friends, go out there, find your own adventure, and stay ageless.